Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fantasycraft The Last City Part 10. I am your host and GM for this evening, Austin Ramsey. My pronouns are he, him. You can find me on Twitter at NotAnIn. And as always, this stream is presented by You Don't Meet in an Inn, an actual play podcast about exploring obscure tabletop role-playing games with a diverse, rotating cast. If you'd like to find any of my work, you can find it at austin-ramsey.itch.io. Joining us this evening is, of course, Christine.
Hi, I'm playing Dorothy, the unborn mage.
Thank you. Also with us this evening is Sasha.
Hi, I'm playing Madame V, the extremely awesome and rad tree.
And last but never least, Hadrian.
That's me, playing Viper, the martial artist.
Thank you all so much for being here. It's been a while. Some things interrupted previous sessions, such as our internet catching fire.
Mm-hmm.
Not
literally.
Literally. Not in the house, thankfully, but a local internet hub burned to the ground. So that put us out of internet for a couple days.
Posting too many nudes.
So yes, last we left our heroes, y'all had participated in the arrest of the criminal Decency who had conspired to put Sparked into the giant embassy in the hopes of convincing the Coast Guard or forcing them to remove the blockade, because she feared that maybe not this winter, but probably next winter, root walkers would be kindling for those who need it. And she was one of them. However, that sort of went as planned, since the blockade has indeed been lifted. However, I don't think she planned on being arrested. So her trial, along with the trial of Professor Eowyn, is ongoing at this time. But that is not what concerns the three of you today, for it has been a couple months since we last saw our heroes, and it is now early spring, and the harbor has thawed for the first time in months, which means that it is now time to take your ship, the Quodlibet, out in... Did I say that right, Sasha?
No, but continue.
Okay, how do you pronounce it?
Technically, it's Quodlibet, but I am looking forward to that just being completely butchered in every possible way. So, proceed with glee and abandon.
I thought I said Quodlibet, but I guess I did not.
You're Canadian, Austin.
What?
Yeah, you should understand how to say Frenchie stuff.
There's no
stuff.
E
That's
at the
what we
end,
call
so
it.
you're not supposed to pronounce the consonant at the end of the word. At any rate, you three have been preparing for the last couple months to take your ship, the Quodlibet, out into the oceans and see what's happened to the rest of the region over the last several years of being isolated within the walls of Enclave. And you came to the agreement that the first stop should be the Creche. Hadrian, do you want to tell us a bit about the Creche and why it is, what the pitch was for it being the first stop?
The pitch, so far as I would call it a pitch, was Viper just not wanting to be stuck in the city anymore and desiring to check in on her home to see how it's fared.
And so, what is the creche that you remember?
Well, the creche is what the name they gave to a large, very lush lagoon on the southern island. And as soon as I find the correct document, I'll be able to more accurately describe it. I was not prepared for this. One moment. Sorry.
That's fine.
Where's that planning document?
I think it should be pinned in the Discord.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, so this is where Viper grew up as a young elf and eventually went on to become no longer an elf. The creche is the place where a particular species of whales that have a life cycle similar to a phoenix would come to die and be reborn. And the Viper was part of the keepers of the creche, known as the Graven Guards, who would see the whales to their end and then raise them from youth until they were ready to go back out into the open oceans. And she left originally because after the god birth, the whales stopped showing up. So that was the state she last saw it in. Was her people still living there, but no reason for her to stay.
And so, what shepherding did Viper and the Graven Guard do for the young whales? Were they protecting them from natural predators, from poachers?
I would guess that it is mostly poachers. The physical location itself, I'm sure, did a lot to protect them from natural predators. But I'm quite sure that there were plenty of various humanoids who were probably more than eager to get their hands on a Mysticeti whale fall.
All right. So, that is the planned destination for this coming voyage. I'm gonna put y'all over on the world map. And I am going to take us over to the play screen.
Oh, there are hexes.
Oh, there are hexes, yes.
Really in it now.
Yeah. Mostly it's to make it sort of easier to judge travel distances. So crossing one hex is approximately 24 miles, roughly 1 day's travel on foot. So yes, that will help us calculate how far it is between these areas.
We have the speed of the boat.
Yep.
It seems like that should be bigger.
Well, I already have it figured out. So the galley travels 144 miles in 24 hours, or 6 hexes. It's 168 miles to the creche. So it's going to be a little over a day before you reach the creche.
That's all?
Yeah, y'all didn't want a super large area for this campaign, so it's not a super large area.
I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah. So, as I said earlier, it's been a couple months since we last saw everyone. What have y'all been up to?
I've been probably settling debts. I
Of
don't want that following you.
debts of what variety?
Well, I mean, I do have a debt to the mob. And I should do that.
Do you just want to handle that off screen?
Unless you have an idea of what they want. Um,
Not at this time, but it is. I mean, if you're not interested in that subplot, then, you can just have settled it off screen. But if you are interested in seeing that on screen, then I can figure something out in the sessions to come. I'm just been waiting for a dramatically appropriate moment.
okay. Well, she also has problems with time, so she may be intending to clear her debts, and then a couple of months go by, and she's like, "Oh, I just got my shoes on, so."
Settle my debts by skipping town.
Yeah, that's. I mean, no internet, so.
So,
How many talking dolls can there be? I mean, plenty, right? No one will notice me.
just blend right in.
Yeah.
So what has she been up to then?
Probably training her dog for riding, for listening commands and being alpha and all that business.
What kind of dog is it?
It is a chow chow.
Big ol' fluffer.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your dog's name?
She hasn't named it. It's kind of a tool for her.
Ah.
But if someone else comes up with a name for it, she wouldn't be opposed to using it. But it doesn't really occur to her to name it.
Nothing wrong with a dog named Dog.
True.
Okay. So that's what Dorothy's been up to. What's V been up to?
That's a fine question. I think, knowing that we're gonna take a day sail.
Pleasure cruise.
Yeah. I think that V has been busy at the opera, like, at the opera house, like, putting together some stuff with the crew there, and making sure that, like, shows continue, and getting understudies and figuring out the playbooks for the next season. Just want to leave it in a good place,
Mm-hmm. Putting on the chopper?
Sure, I don't know what that means.
Sorry, you said playbooks. And
Oh yeah. Oh, got it.
Giant tree opera or actual play podcast. Same terminology.
All right, giving those B-listers a chance since the A-lister is going to be on a ship out of town.
Exactly.
And Viper, what have you been up to?
Viper's probably actually been doing a lot of intensive physical training more than she has for the last several years to get back in fighting shape.
And what does that look like?
A lot of
Tell us your montage.
a lot of one finger push-ups in the maybe in the training room of the punch bowl with a couple of bros hanging off of a quarterstaff while she squats them. That kind of stuff.
Nice. It's almost too bad that we don't have intelligent undead in the city, because then you could be doing deadlifts.
Oh.
Hey.
All right. Another thing that the three of you have been up to over the last couple of months has been putting together a crew. Because the type of ship that you require, the galley, or that you have, requires a crew of 30 people. So I had y'all put together a list of 10 crew members each. We won't go over them all now, because that would be a lot. But if they are going to be the NPCs on the ship going forward, and so if you need to have a scene with anyone or think that there's anything appropriate that you need to have them be present for, just we got a list of people who are on the ship. I also want to bring them in by having... Now, this next part isn't in Fantasy Craft, but I'm going to let them assist you with something if it relates to their talent that you chose for each of them. Because I had you all pick one talent for each of your crew members. So if you get their help, and of course it doesn't have to be from the crew that you selected, it could be from the crew that someone else made, then you'll get a +1 to your roll. Okay. Sasha, why were you looking a bit aggrieved?
I just didn't realize I'd become mechanically important.
Yeah, that's because I didn't say anything, because I wanted to see what y'all came up with.
So I'm looking forward to being able to call on Domino, bless talented, has seen a ghost before.
You laugh, but that's probably going to wind up being the most important skill in this whole campaign.
Who knows? Maybe they can become a medium. So, yeah. Has anyone been preparing for the voyage? Like, logistically?
That's what the sailors are for.
Yeah. I'm going to say quickly, looking at this document, Dorothy seems to be the only one that's gone about hiring any sort of sailors.
I love you guys very much.
Okay. This is fair. Maybe we should have invested in a captain.
I think
We have
that's you, V.
We have one, no?
Oh. Well,
I have someone specifically on the list who is like the head of the crew of sailors that I got, and she has a special talent of managing.
oh good. Thank God.
But you're the figurehead, maybe even literally, or figureheads.
Yes.
Well, that's good. Every group needs a very competent NCO to look after the officers. Okay. So, I think then we will open up on a scene of the three of you plus Hanar, who is the head of the sailors in the Giant's townhouse, along with Ingril. And does anyone have any other crew members they think should be present for this? This is a sort of like last minute checks, going over everything before shipping out later today.
I think Mabel Seaworthy is there too. She's like an old lady, black skin, white dreadlocks. She was the trainer / manager of the pit fighters at the Punch Bowl.
All right. And Christine, why don't you describe Hanar?
Hanar is pretty weathered sailor. She is tall, strong, blonde, white, human. Goes by she, her. Sometimes he, him. Um, and she is in her maybe mid 60s. It's kind of hard to tell. She's pretty weathered. Um, and pretty boisterous.
All right. And Sasha, is there any of the crew from the list you recruited to the ship who are present?
I guess Barnaby Slinks could be there because he's the cook. Is it Kadam? So like a cat person, I think is what that meant.
Yeah.
Black and gray, kind of old. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got.
We just all chose all the old folks off our crew.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Clearly, these are the authority figures.
All
I
right.
mean, we're all older than them, but
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose there's probably been a I was going to say a human-sized table set up for figuring this out, but that's a little awkward for V and Viper, and isn't that much better for Dorothy. So what's the seating situation as y'all are crowded around a you've probably out-of-date map?
Are we on the ship or are we in the embassy? Where are we?
You are in the embassy.
Okay.
so here's the deal with me. Sailors tend to be a very superstitious type of person, and I think a walking, talking demon doll might be a bit of a curse on this mission, especially like the first sailing out in like a decade. So I'm going to just be on the table, slumped over as a doll.
Wow.
Okay, how did you
That
recruit
is somehow
Hanar?
more creepy than Dorothy's normal state.
through letters and like a proxy.
I see. So did you have someone to pretend to be Dorothy of
No.
the letters? Okay. Just was the proxy someone in the crew or like someone you paid separately, or was it like V or
Just a courier to like send the letters of we have this ship, we need a crew.
I just like keeping this doll around.
It's a good luck doll. It's fine. There may be a child on the ship.
That's not better. There may be a child. I swear to God, everyone, I saw a kid running around on deck last night.
I hear children's laughter.
God. Okay. So what's are y'all on like? I guess you're on like the dining table or something. The two of you seated, and then the other.
I think Mabel's just standing in her chair.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think Hanar is probably sitting cross-legged on the table, so she can point very like fiercely at locations when talking about stuff.
I think Garby's also up on the table.
All right.
Okay, but before we get into this, can we all just promise not to stab the map with a dagger? Because that looks really cool, but this was very expensive. Very cool.
Okay.
I know.
Dorothy making this request before everyone else arrives.
Do you have like a signal to no, you have like the mental link, or you can't anyway.
I do, but in order to cast it, it's noticeable because I don't have hidden spells yet.
You could do that beforehand so that you can actually like be involved in the planning.
No, I know nothing about sailing. It's okay. I'm glad to be here. I
Okay.
just want to know firsthand what's going on, but I have nothing to contribute except just a disquiet cast over the entire room.
I don't know anything about sailing. You don't see me closing my mouth about it.
It's harder. You have more mouths.
I'll take that as a compliment. I don't think it was meant as one.
No, Dorothy is very impressed. She would talk more if she could.
Very impressed with your number of mouths.
Mhm. It's a good feature.
Well, thank you.
Somewhere there's drawings of your faces and like possible like future bodies. In her little My Little Diary art log.
All right. So the 6 of you, or 5 as far as the hired crew are aware, are surrounding this map on the dining table in the Giant's Embassy, the place that has been your base of operations for the last couple months. And Hannar says, all right, we're going to go over this one last time since I know that most of y'all aren't sailors. Okay? So, it's 168 miles, roughly, to get to the South Island, the south side of the South Island. That lagoon there. I never been there myself. I don't think, to my knowledge, the Graven Guard let ships into that lagoon too often, so I don't know what the harbor situation's going to be like. Viper, can you update us on what you recall in that regard?
Well, there are no docks, and you're not going to be able to get into the lagoon, so you can't get directly to the beach.
All right. Now, why can't we get to the lagoon? Is there sandbars, or is this
It's a reef situation going on there.
I see. All right. Wasn't sure if it was an...
Although I'm not sure how shallow the ship runs, so I'm not a sailor. I always swam it, and it wasn't a problem.
Yeah, well, you're mighty big, so that's
I mean, the whales could get in and out of there, no problem. So.
Okay. I don't think it should be too much of an issue. We can probably weigh anchor offshore and then take one of the rowboats in. Or worst comes to worst, I had a look over the Quodlibet, and it looks... That one was in character.
I love it. Continue.
And it looks like it was designed that it could be beached fairly safely, if need be. Now, I don't know who designed that thing. It's mighty big for a galley. And it's I'll be frank, I'm not sure how well I trust it. This is definitely going to be a bit of a shakedown voyage for this ship. So, I hope, I know I went over the crew manifest that you provided. I have to say that it's not necessarily the crew that I would have selected. However,
I know there's not enough musicians. Sorry, I did what I could.
Do we all put musicians on?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. We know what you need at sea. I'm a beaver.
Yeah, alas, I didn't get very many accompanists. I don't know how to say that, but V probably does. But short notice and all. Everyone's got such schedules to work around.
Hannar gives you a look that's like, I have no clue if you're fucking with me or if you're serious, but doesn't comment on it and says,
There's no indication.
regardless, anyone who has a pair of hands can put a board up to the hull and put some nails in if we begin to spring leaks. We've got the materials we need to make repairs if necessary, and we most assuredly will need to at some point. Even just sitting in the harbor, the ship's been finding the odd leak here and there. As I said, I don't know who put this thing together, but it's an odd construction. So, I think we'll be okay. It's just about a day and a half trip to the creche, by my reckoning. Any concerns that y'all have?
What's your experience with sea monsters, if any?
Valid.
I think Bearme's eyes go wide at that. I don't think he's like been outside of Enclave before. I think he's Enclave born and raised, but was like, after 9 years of being cooped up, I need out of this place. And so his eyes go wide at that. And he says, sea monsters? Are you sure? Is that a thing? I thought that was stories.
Oh, they're real. The thing they don't tell you is most of them are actually kind of friendly.
Oh,
wow.
That's good to hear. And Mabel, she says, well, that's a little disappointing. I would have liked to see what some of my our folks can do after we train them up a bit, and because at the very least, we're going to need practice before we start dealing with the Sparked. I imagine there's going to be some on land, and that's going to be an issue.
I'm sure we're not going to face any shortage of danger out there. That is why I brought you. But as far as the stuff in the water, I think leave that to me and Tika, who is another as yet to be seen crew member. We'll handle that.
All right.
Is there any concern about pirates? Or any other ships?
Henner looks pensive about that, and then she says, well, there were certainly pirates before we set up the blockade, and I've heard that there was the odd attempt to run the blockade from time to time, but I haven't heard about that too recently. Maybe there's still pirates out there. Maybe not. It's unclear how bad things are. I mean, the harbor's only just started to thaw, so even those ships that left, recently haven't been back yet. People are still having looks about. And there's a lot of ocean out there.
It is only a day and a half's travel. Have you ever met a pirate, Hannah?
Yeah, I've met a pirate or two.
Well, how did that go?
It depends on the pirate.
Thank you, you set my heart at ease.
What can I say, Some of them are scoundrels, not worthy of scraping off your boot. And some of them fancy to be heroes of the people. stealing from merchants and giving to whomever they think they're benefiting. And some are just folk working a job, you know? Pointing out how far it is to the creche, for instance. So,
Certainly.
we'll see when we encounter them. I mean, if they're flying, you know, symbols of death, then we should definitely be prepared for the worst. But they don't always make their colors so clear.
I understand.
Yeah. I'm glad that Viper can speak to the sea monsters, because I don't have much experience with them. Usually you see a fin the size of a sloop and you just avoid it as best you can.
I'm not saying don't do that.
Good to know. Are there any other concerns about the coming voyage?
We have plenty of supplies, right? We have more than we need?
Baramy says, "Oh yes, I've..." what was his voice? It was a bit more nasally. "Oh yes, I've been looking over the manifest, and I'm pretty sure we have everything we need for the coming voyage. And, but the funds... There was enough to plan a voyage to the creche and back. But it wouldn't hurt to load up on supplies while we were on the South Island, or at least something to bring back to then trade for more goods. We've got enough for the crew and the planned voyage, but detours will be an issue."
This is a fine point.
Well, if the creche is anything like I left it, there'll be no shortage of food and supplies there.
Oh, what was it like? What can we expect in the regard of supplies?
For a number as small as we are, literally as much as you can eat. Almost infinite wood and trees. Well, this was all, of course, 9 years ago.
Mabel says, "Yes, things have a tendency to change in 9 years. For instance, my grandchildren are a bit bigger." So, I hope we can count on that.
Hopefully. Maybe some of my grandchildren are bigger too. It's been a while since I saw any of them.
I didn't know you had kids.
She's talking about the whales.
Well, I hope they like singing there. I don't believe I have any further questions about the journey, except that that we leave on time in the morning. This all seems in order.
Don't worry. I'll make sure that the crew are there when they're supposed to be.
Well, thank you.
You mentioned song. Is it true that whales like song?
All they do is sing.
Interesting. I look forward to hearing them.
Yeah, me too.
So how do they... What are their amphitheaters like? Is it like the art center? Is it open air?
Do you have to
Well,
be underwater to hear it?
we'll be,
Underwater?
Do you know what, Bellamy? Do you know what a whale is?
A sea person that sings?
that's not inaccurate.
Viper, what's a whale?
Okay, do you know what a ship is?
Yes.
I hope so.
Imagine a ship, but it's alive and it goes under the water. That's a whale.
All right.
Is a whale crude? As it doesn't have people working on it. No,
Oh.
is it?
I only heard CRUDE. Well, most of them are different, but
Do whales swear?
sure some of them are foul mouth. It's a magnificent creature, and I hope you can meet one soon.
Me too.
All right. Any other? So it sounds like there's no other concerns. There's definitely a lot of times during this conversation where like the three crew members are like looking at Dorothy like slumped over on the table next to like a sugar bowl or something that's like half the size she is because it's made for the giants.
This is my business doll.
I think every so often, Madame V will like lean forward on the table to in like a gesture to look at something a little bit closer, but is actually like leaning next to Dorothy to see if she has anything she wants to add to the conversation.
Oh no.
Oh, you know what? I bet Mabel totally knows Dorothy.
She's not a sailor,
Is,
is she?
at the punch bowl.
No, yeah,
She's not a sailor, but she will be going with us, and she's here right now.
that's true. There's a good chance she has seen Dorothy at the punch bowl.
If she could see me over everyone else's like heads. I'm just like at their knees, just.
That finger was talking to somebody up under that table. Mabel's probably also the kind of person who knows how to just go with it.
How to improv.
Just quietly yes ending this conversation, yeah.
All right. So, the next day is when you will be setting sail. The three crew members, they bid you adieu for the evening and go off to make any last-minute preparations that need to be done, which for Hanar is probably ensuring that the crew doesn't overdrink before their voyage. For Mabel, it's probably making sure that the like first aid supplies for the training are on ship. And for Bearme, it's likely looking over, of course, the food and water supplies, making sure that y'all got your rations and food, vegetables, and making sure no one's gonna get scurvy. Which I guess the root walkers aren't susceptible to.
And I'd be impressed if that happened in a day.
Who knows?
They're
Maybe
most of them aren't sailors. They have no idea of how scurvy works.
Yeah. It's a sailing curse, you see.
No, it's bad. You're not supposed to get it.
Bearme, having no clue about sailing, has just packed only lemons
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Previous to this day, has never eaten a lemon in his entire life. Just go on a boat and don't eat a lemon. It's bad. That's all I know.
Although it does make me think that maybe I should put in a some kind of like horrible monster that inflicts scurvy instantly upon you, so all your old wounds start to reopen.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Although I think the three of you are immune to disease, so don't know.
Just your poor crew.
Yeah. Oh, that does remind me. To be clear, all of your crew are standard NPCs, which means that they can't.
Don't let them get hurt.
Yeah, they can theoretically die from a single hit. I don't have stats for all of them yet because I didn't have the complete list for all of them until now, but I'll just basically be picking descriptions out of the rogues gallery in the rule book for whatever seems to fit best for each of them, based upon the description and talent they each have. Yeah. So is there anything that the three of you... So I guess, okay, the three crew members leave. Dorothy, you can quit your charade. Is there anything that the three of you want to discuss or tend to before tomorrow morning?
Viper, have you ever had an update from any of the whales about what's been going on in your hometown or homeland?
I haven't seen a whale since the day the god happened.
Not any whales? I thought it was just the ones that you reared.
Well, it's not like I swim around out in the open ocean calling for them, but seeing them outside the creche is rare.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know where to look, and I haven't seen one since then.
Hmm. Well, I'm sure your families could be fine. The walkers aren't affected by the sparks, so...
Well, yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys like oysters. We have like the best oysters in the world.
I can't eat or drink.
Have I ever had an oyster?
Okay, well that's a good point. I failed to think of.
I'm sure Foxglove likes to try new food, so I'm sure she'll enjoy it.
Right on.
Oh, and then sleep in the shell.
Big fucking oyster.
Yes.
Sasha, what are you contemplating?
I was trying to think if Madame B had ever had oysters before. I think she had, but she was extremely drunk at the time. So I decided to try it again, but like remember it this time.
Okay. Any other last minute things?
Guess I have to find a good book to read.
What is happening with Ingril?
So Ingril has basically been financing this whole voyage. She's, been left with all of the wealth of the Giant's embassy, and
She is corrupt.
well, the last task that the embassy undertook was to come to Enclave to try and lessen their culture's isolation. So being part of a group that is reaching out beyond Enclave once the blockade has come down, she sees as the logical extension to her previous mission. And she knows that such a task requires a fair bit of backing. And she has well, I was going to say has the money, but as Baramy pointed out, y'all have the money to get to the creche, but like this better be lucrative in some fashion for another voyage. Because, I mean, Ingrill's basically said that if worse comes to worse, she will sell the townhouse so that y'all can take another voyage. But it's, there's a very thin margin of error for her finances and the embassy's finances at this time. As a reminder, in the first dinner scene that y'all had here, the embassy was burning manure for heat as opposed to the more expensive but more pleasant coal that Lord Broadwing was able to afford.
Just transplant your soul into a doll already. Get over yourself.
Counterpoint, oysters.
Yeah, no, Dorothy is trapped in the hell of her own making. Yeah.
Well, would pop in and say, a last goodbye, at least for the moment, to April before we left.
Okay. Yeah, so she's upstairs in the study. You go up to see her, I take it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The door to the study is open, and she is at a desk looking over some paperwork and doing some writing in a ledger.
Hello, dear. We leave in a few hours. I just wanted to say, just wanted to see how you were doing before we set off.
Well, I'm doing all right. Things will be fine while you three are away. I'll manage just fine. And I'm just figuring out where the, shall we say, unnecessary expenses are here. I'm sure that there's some things that I can sell to help keep afloat. But yes, if there is something that you could find to bring back, whether it's information that we can sell or, I don't know, trade goods.
Well, certainly. I mean, the creche is a very special place. I'm sure we'll find something.
Yes. Judging by Viper's description of it, it sounds like we will, it'll be a good trip.
Yeah, that is my hopes. It is good to hear you optimistic. If not in good spirits.
She sort of smiles sadly and says, optimism is a necessity of life in Enclave over the last 9 years, and I'm not about to quit now.
Beautiful, brilliant. And let me hug your neck before I leave. I go over and do that.
She gets up and says, no, a proper one. And she hugs you back.
Yay.
Below the bifurcation in your body.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you in a few days then.
Have a safe voyage, all three of you.
Yeah. That's the plan. She smiles and she leaves.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to do before tomorrow morning?
I mean to visit April, but again, I kind of lose myself.
Well, what does Dorothy end up doing instead?
I think she's. Yeah. Well, no, I think that she's getting getting the animals into the stables of the ship, and then sort of like hiding herself also in there, buried in the hay with a book.
So by animals, you mean foxglove, dog, and presumably the animals for food?
Well, is Gentleman Moose coming with us?
Oh yes, Gentleman Moose as well.
Yes.
I don't know how I can forget Gentleman Moose. All right.
Connor
And
says, "Why is the ship so big?" He's like, "We're not leaving the moose."
yeah. And I'm also going to, I guess I'll start what I'll be doing throughout the trip, which is a crafting project.
All right. And what are you planning on making?
Barding for the dog.
Okay. Do you have the mechanical side of that all worked out?
No. So I'm just gonna bank it.
Okay. All right. And is Viper up to anything?
I think Viper's probably just got like a lot of nervous energy to work off. I don't know what she's doing. Probably something mildly violent with Lance and a couple of the others that'll be going.
Okay.
She's letting Riggsy win some arm wrestling matches.
Oh, how
Sure.
gracious.
All right. So Viper spends the night carousing.
Sorry, I just picture part of Viper's boast being like, I can beat you in an arm wrestling match with both my arms behind my back, and just getting like her 2 arms and then her 3rd arm with the match.
Mm-hmm.
Arm jokes are never not funny to me. I don't know why. They just right.
And V, after you leave Ingrel, what do you get up to?
I think it's sort of last minute packing, making sure that I have everything that I need, and a little bit of tending to the new flowers for the voyage. It's a bunch of like seaside flowers, a lot of like of like big pretty lilies and red and orange flowers.
Those that'll deal well with salty sea spray.
Exactly.
Nice. Oh, I guess there's a question. Did y'all get like new outfits for your voyage? Does V have like an operatic captain's costume on?
Just best possible hat.
Hats.
Yeah.
You can have 2, and they don't have to be matching. I don't know what would be better though, if they were or not.
It's 2 tricorner hats that come together to make another hat. Yeah.
Christ.
What, like Velcro?
No, they just they stack well is the idea.
Okay.
Man, Madam V would make everyone else at the Kentucky Derby feel like trash.
Yeah, which is the point of it.
Dorothy, do you get a new outfit for the voyage ahead? And I mean, it is
Dorothy
all.
has a lot of outfits already. I actually haven't posted them all, but yeah, she has a lot of outfits. A lot of them are riffs off of different styles of Greek women's wear from a long time ago. Nothing current.
And does Viper have a new spring fashion?
Spring fashions. Probably sticks to her standard trousers and sleeveless shirts. Unless she's in the water, in which case She just has a pair of leather swim trunks, and that's it.
All right.
I gotta say, leather skin trunks or swim trunks does not sound nice or comfortable.
It's when I say swim trunks, but think more like the Spartans from 300 movie.
You should just put some leaves down there.
Grow out her butt.
God damn it.
Thanks, I hate it.
Sorry.
Just a merkin. Fuck
How
off.
do I unrecord someone else's audio?
You do the editing.
Oh, God.
Where was I?
We're
Right.
trying to leave port.
Right.
I'm just trying to get off the island.
Right. The next morning. Oh, yes, that reminds me. So are the where do each of you spend the night? Dorothy, it sounds like you like snuck aboard ship and then are just like hiding somewhere on the ship.
Yeah.
Where are you hiding?
I'm in the stables. I'm sewing on I'm figuring out the dog's armor.
Okay. And what do you do, like, because there is some of the other crew that are on the ship doing like prepping and stowing their things. What do you do when you hear them coming? Because I think there's definitely at one point you hear like you hear Amber Fire Tender, who's a root walker, just be like, is that the sound of chickens? And then like they and Valerie Oldpot, who's a human woman, the two of them come in to this area, and Valerie's like, when did Bearamy bring the animals on? I thought that Zalv was going to be handling the animals, since they apparently knows things about handling animals.
To clarify. Okay, so Zal's talent is spider handling, which means that they're the one who takes out the spider when there's a spider in the room. That's the talent.
That's definitely not how they sold it to Hanar when getting hired.
That's some real resume inflation there.
Hanar definitely thinks that Zelf has experience with like training giant spiders for the theater or some wild bullshit like that.
No, they're just gonna, like, with a little glass cup and a piece of paper.
So yeah, Valerie's like, wasn't Zelv gonna do that? And Amber's like, I thought so, but I guess they did it earlier? So what's Dorothy doing while the two of them are like, what's going on here?
I'm just planked onto the floor and just covered myself in hay.
Why do we have a dog?
Actually, you know what? No. Orpa's gonna fuck with them slightly. She's just gonna go into doll mode in one of the stall's corners where you're just like, oh my god, who left that there? I don't want to be in this room for very long. Kind of doll placement.
I think Valerie like startles and says, oh my god, who left that there? Why is there a... You know what? It's not mine. I don't know whose it is. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's that Ento's. It seems kind of weird. It's like doll seems kind of like its thing.
In case anyone's wondering, Ento is an outsider that Dorothy had summoned because she had a quick question about bugs. And like I feel like outsiders, they're sort of like the physical manifestation of like desires, knowledge, interest. It's hard to grasp a whole what they are. So it knows bugs really, really well. And then when she finished with it, this one spell is over, she no longer has control over it, and it just sort of also got distracted by some bugs, and it's just been with her for years, that she's just been like tossing like the occasional cockroach or getting getting Madame B's friend to like bring him a spider or something. And it's just like been in the box in Dorothy's office at the theater for years, and it hasn't even really known that it's just been in a box. It's been too busy studying bugs.
So Ento's the one that actually has the spider handling skills.
I guess, yeah.
They're the physical.
We have two superfluous characters whose talent is knows bugs. Bug.
The gay that can touch a bug.
Yeah. More or less.
Yeah.
So the outsiders are manifestations of like desires and particular knowledge, but the way Dorothy treats them is they're the physical manifestations of absent-minded Google searches.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
You don't want to know what our safe search is like.
Yeah, so Valerie's like, you know what? I'm not going to touch it. Ento can do whatever it wants. That thing is probably full of spiders or ants or something. And Amber's like, oh my god, I hadn't even thought about that.
Well, we know what advanced Dorothy is taking next level.
Full of spiders.
Oh my god.
Do you have the like summon swarm spell?
Not yet.
That was a joke.
I know. Don't make
Fantasy Crafts, you've done it again.
Dorothy just opens her mouth and just spiders.
You know spiders, man, but like actual.
Yeah. Okay. So Amber's like, you know what? I'm not coming back here unless Baramy says I need to grab a chicken for him. And Valerie's like, I don't blame you. Let's go. So the two of them leave off to go back to whatever duty that they were. And I think definitely at some point you hear like another voice go, are there chickens in there? And Amber and Valerie are both like, don't ask. So V, where do you spend the night sleeping?
Oh, I think actually, I think I sleep, in the captain's quarters. I think I have like, the way that I picture the sleeping, I might have mentioned this earlier, or I'll contradict whatever I said earlier, is with like, she has like a bed of soil, and like it's like probably like 2 feet deep maybe, and she just sort of like scooches her feet into that and then twirls around into like a more of a tree shape kind of structure, and then just kind of sits. So I think that she has that bed sort of nailed into one of the corners so it doesn't like slide around while the ship is moving, and is like puttering around and like adjusting things and like just sort of making the room to her her liking.
You're decorating.
Yeah.
Nice.
What if when Madame sleeps, she snores, but it's like one head is the inhale and the other is the exhale? Like,
A little circular breathing.
It's just one long snore that continues.
And Viper, where do you spend the night?
Probably passed out in the punch bowl somewhere.
I suspected, but I didn't want to speak on your behalf.
Yeah, I'm sure when Mabel comes to kick him awake in the morning, Viper's like on the ground with like one leg up on a bench in the locker room, and like her head is laying on Rigsy, and Rigsy is sort of half passed out on Lance. It's just
I think Amel and Ahmed are there too, which I don't know if you would have known them before they joined the crew, but you might have seen Amel around as he's a fairly bulky Kadum and is a bodyguard, so I wouldn't be surprised if he spent the occasional bout in the punch bowl.
they're identical, but their body shapes are a little different from like different use.
Yeah. And Ahmed is, as Christine said, Amel's twin brother. And I think they're both there, passed out alongside you. They joined you for drinking to try and get to know the other crew members they weren't so familiar with. So yeah, Mabel comes and kicks the lot of you awake.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I hope none of you are hungover, because I made sure the rest of the crew who came in here into the punch bowl last night didn't get too drunk. I hope you lot hiding back here in the locker room didn't drink yourselves stupid.
Viper just kind of cracks one eye open and goes, it'd be harder to drink ourselves stupid than we already were. Sort of rolls over.
Ma'am, I was born stupid.
Viper, take a level of fatigue. That has less to do with the drinking and more to do with the fact of your sleeping arrangement. Because in Fantasycraft, if you do not get a proper night's sleep...
Well, quality of sleep matters.
Yes, it does, because this is Fantasycraft.
Crunch, 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 crunch.
Yeah.
Love that delicious fantasy.
So, V, are you the type to wake up with the dawn, or when
yes.
everyone else is supposed to be arriving? Okay. So, V and Dorothy, you two hear this as V, you wake up, and Dorothy, I think you come out of whatever fugue state that you were in. And you
I'm so awake. I'm not in a fugue state. Rude.
In a fugue state, I'm just sitting here staring at everyone silently.
God, don't
Unmoved.
judge my hobbies.
And the two of you can hear the sound of a lot of people. And in fact, I think what catches your ear is the sound of Hanar yelling, like, from the deck. And she is yelling. She's telling people to, like, back off and make way. If you don't get aside, I'm going to clouch you about the head. And so, Viper, when you arrive at the West Docks, which is where the ship is located, you see that there is a massive crowd of people just surrounding the gangplanks leading to the ship. And there's Hanar like on the deck with a like barge pole keeping them at bay, and because there's like people who are like shouting and like, let us on, we want out of this city, off of this island. Some people are offering money, some people are just like, please, like, we need to get out of here, I need to see my family. There's a lot of desperate people here. Some of them are saying that they're sailors and they're willing to help. Others, like, you can see some that are looking like they're trying to work up the courage to rush the deck, because while Hanar is at one gangplank, the other gangplank is being guarded by Greta Falconer, who it's unclear like what she's a Kadam, but it's unclear like what her occupation is per se. She's just sort of like a general labor hand, and it doesn't have the kind of rough and tumble experience that Hanar has. So some people are like seeing that she could be a literal pushover. She's got like a basically a club. I don't recall what it is. It's like a big wooden peg that is used on a ship, and she's got one in hand. But she looks reluctant to actually clout someone about the head, unlike Hanar, who's just got like the barge pole and just ready to fuck people up if they try and come up the gangplank. So V, you poke your head look out the captain's quarters window, and you can see that. And Dorothy, you can hear that from below deck. Viper, you can see that from the docks as you approach. And you can also see that there is most of your crew who are not on the ship yet.
Yeah, we can't get there because they're blocked.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's going to take care of this crowd?
Well, we will figure that out after the break, because it is about 7:30, which is when we take our breaks. So, everyone, we will be back in about 5 minutes. See you then.